Alright, let's see if this stream will work well. I'm going to start off playing some Blitz games as an experiment, see if my equipment actually works. I'll try a 5-3 casual Blitz game. And off I go, playing 2178. Start with an e4 opening, choosing a French defense against me. Knight d2, I think. Tarash, French. Black can take me, or they can not take me and play the knight f6 lines. e5. Knight fd7 is more common, but sometimes you get very strange moves like e4 being played from the knight. But no, they played the main line French, so bishop d3. Idea is often to play things like c3, and then you can sometimes sort of flip the knights over to the king's side. So c3, I want my pawn on d4 to stay there forever. Knight e2. Then, yeah, c4 is a bit unusual, but I think it's a move. Bishop c2, I want to stay on this diagonal towards the king. And because they're not really putting me under too much pressure, I'm going to try shoving up with f4. Knight f3. If I can quickly do a pawn break attacking on f5, then that will be amazing. But black is trying to charge their pawns down the board at me instead. I remember I had a game in the British Championships about 2 years ago which was very similar to this. And I believe black played queen b6 in the position in that game. And then when they did that, they were so kind of isolating their own king that I tried shoving up my pawns and smashing all the way through. But no, they played knight b6, continuing queenside play. I could play g4 here. Looks very aggressive. h5 though is worth looking at for black, because if I let the h8 rook become powerful, I could be in serious trouble. f5 immediately though is interesting because I may get initiative. I might get a small attack. So it's either g4 or h5. I'm going to actually go with g4. And against h5, which could well be played, I'm going to respond f5. And then the game is going to get very aggressive very quickly. Both of us going for a kingside attack. I'm hoping that my piece play might be good enough. Knight f7 looks knight f4 looks interesting to go to g6, and the f7 pawn will be powerful. Knight f4 does look good, but I think maybe knight g3 is better just to stop queen g5 check, which could be useful. But queen h4 is being played. Yes, this could be annoying. Alright, well, okay, rook f2 then. So I'm guarding the h2 pawn from the queen. The pawn's doing a great job by itself, saving the knight from being attacked. My plan is to take with the queen on f3, continue getting a small initiative, and I might even be playing moves like knight f5 soon to try and bring the bishop over here and check the king, which has now run away. Maybe they sensed that's what I was going to play. Right, the black queen is a little bit troublesome. Knight f5 could be played, sacrificing another piece. I think first I'm going to play bishop f4. The idea, knight f5, pawn takes, then e6 check, and I somehow am running up the two pawns on e and f. I suspect black is better here with accurate play, as I am currently a piece down with only 2 pawns to show for it. But if those 2 pawns can become queens, then I'll definitely win the game. How will my opponent choose to answer me? They're playing knight d7, coming back over to the king's side. Now, e6, the idea of playing knight f5 with the follow-up e6 is even more appealing. But I may actually play this move, bishop f5. My knight is actually perhaps a bit more useful on the board, stopping any checks and guarding my king. Black is not yet ready to try and let me have anything here. They're going knight d8. Yeah, perhaps this is okay. This might be good. Maybe I can get away with queen e3. The plan's bishop g5, attempting to get the queen. I'm still guarding myself, and if pawn takes bishop, I can still play e6. So I will have the piece back, essentially. And maybe I can even play e6 to e7 later on, with my queen on e3 actually being a good backup. Yeah, bishop e7, which is preventing my idea from happening. Alright, bishop g6. I want to make sure the pawn is alive for the future. Then knight f5 can be a useful move. Now, can I play knight f5? It might be a bit too much, though, to play that move. My opponent's defending it extremely well. I'm not sure what to play here. Knight f8 is a very good move. Knight f5, pawn takes f5. Then e6 check, king just moves away. And I'm not totally sure how I'm answering that move. Well, I guess I'll find out. Knight f5. I might have moves like bishop g3 coming up. And perhaps my two pawns could be better than I think they are. So let's have a look. It's also a blitz game that's casual, so I'm not entirely under enough pressure to find the correct moves. I can mess around a bit with knight f5. Queen takes f4. I was not expecting that move. That's definitely something I wasn't looking at. Right, I guess I'll take the queen. My plan is that, yeah, bishop g5 is going to be played. My hope was that if I took with the queen, they could take my bishop free, and then it would be very annoying. I suppose maybe if I give the knight away, maybe that's the best way of playing. They take the knight, and I can play rook g4, and I should be holding everything together. That's a very radical solution for black, giving up the queen for the piece. But I suppose they've got enough pieces now. I gave up a piece earlier, I've lost another piece, and I just gave up my knight. So 3 pieces for a queen is essentially the balance here, although I'm not sure black had to do that. Alright, well, rook takes bishop will obviously be done if knight takes. They could then take on f7, but they don't, I suspect, want to open everything up. I suppose I should try holding my pawn on f7. Then perhaps I should retreat. Maybe it's the better part of valor. Run the bishop away. Rook to g8 could be a move coming up. And attempting to take their rook, kind of do a mini fork, take back and make a new queen if the piece is taken. But no, rook h5. Right, how do I break through? That's the key thing I need to do here. I suppose, and I could try breaking through with moves like a4, but I'm not really certain that works. Alright, we'll improve my pieces, I guess. Queen to g3. I've now got a nice battery where the queen will come up, and the b pawn comes up, so that if I take, they'll take with the a pawn. Their rook will become powerful. Perhaps I continue with my plan. If they take me, I'll just take back with the pawn. So I don't really need to be overly concerned with the advance of the A and B pawns. I don't have a weakness on that side of the board. And no, they're playing A4. The idea, I think, is to play A3, completely shutting me in. And then, I mean, if they do A3, maybe I'm still not overly concerned with what they're doing. I wish I could play Queen G7, but I can't because of Rook G5. Perhaps, maybe I go A3 here. Then, if they take on A3, no, they haven't. They've played the other move. So I want my bishop to have at least some places to go. If it goes to B1, it will be completely trapped for the rest of the game. So bishop D1, maybe I can reroute it somewhere. And rook moves over to H7. Looks correct. Okay, well I can improve the bishop maybe, or maybe something else. Could play rook to f6. Could be a nice move. This is actually surprisingly difficult to play. All right, well, okay, I'll just get my king safe. Then I don't need to worry again about pins on my king and my queen. f7 could drop, but no, they are instead selecting to put their knights over onto the other side. I kind of want to trade the pieces, to be honest. Rook h4. Okay, go for some cheap tactics. Disconnecting the rook and bishop to each other, so this rook is now vulnerable. If rook e4 that hasn't been played, can I get away with rook g8? If bishop takes, pawn takes check. Yeah, rook's there. Okay, maybe now I do something weird like this. I'm dropping the pawn, but I'm hoping it will open up lines to go for the king. But of course I need to worry about rook f1 check if they take me. Rook f1 hitting both. And no, they're not selecting to do anything interesting. They're trying to hold the position. I've got 41 seconds, and they're now charging in. I'm going to try bringing in the queen. Their knight's coming in. They're trying to... That's quite clever, actually. They're trying to do something with those pieces. Perhaps queen g2, making sure they can't push the pawns. And I'm thinking, no, they're doing it anyway. All right. So bishop takes. I see what they're trying. That's actually quite good. All right, bishop f3. Maybe then queen f1. Yeah, it might be worse here. Okay, they're bringing the rook across. I have to try pushing my own pawns. And it looks like black might actually be a little bit faster than me. Well done. It's going to be a very strange ending here, with potentially both of us having two queens. Yeah, okay. I'll make one queen to make up for the fact I'm about to lose the other one. Then b2. Oh, okay, they played the correct move. Maybe if I do this. Oh, it doesn't work. I thought I had e6 and then I had queen e5 check, but no, my king's in exactly the wrong place. Oh dear. Yeah, because if I go queen e5 check, they block it with their bishop, and that also prevents me getting out. But no, they played another move. All right, well, I won't disappoint anybody who's watching. I'll make it as interesting as I can. So two queens. Then, oh, I can nearly go queen e5. It's close to working, but they had to have queen to block and pin me. So, all right, throw in a couple of checks, and I suspect I'll resign in a few seconds. I can't even go queen b6 because their other queen would take me. So black will checkmate me in a move or two. And then queen b to h1 is a good mate. But no, okay, they've decided not to checkmate me in one turn. There's a few checkmates here, I think. Queen h4 to e1, but no, again, they're just toying with me at this stage. Maybe they're wondering why I don't resign. It's highly unlikely a player of this skill would miss so many mates. So yeah, just messing around. Bishop d6 or something, and then try and win all over again. No, they're continuing to sort of play. Yeah, and checkmate. Okay, alright, that was an interesting match. I'll try playing one where I'm actually facing a rated opponent. So maybe that will get me to play better. Alright, so I've got a wide range of opponents. 17 minutes. Not 17 minutes. 1700 to like 2400 or something. Just for fun, I will play a French as well, like my last opponent. Maybe the luck will rub off on me. What can I do to make the game interesting? I guess c5 is necessary here. And the move I often play is queen b6 because it prevents white playing bishop e3, which is a sideline of the French. It makes them play into the main line, where I know a bit more theory than these sideline moves. Yeah, bishop d7 is very safe. It's often a useful move to throw in. And then knight h6 is somewhat interesting. If white takes it with their bishop, which they have just done, I have two options. One is to take here and one is to take the bishop. I'm going to chicken out and take the bishop. Despite the fact you can take the pawn trying to go for the rook, there are lots of very complicated positions where your queen can get trapped. So I'm trying to avoid those. I don't really want my queen going anywhere off the board. So my plan might be to play in the centre and king side, trying to go for the king, but the rook is the only piece really able to go over here, so it's more likely my queen side play could be useful. Alright, take the pawn, try to make these pawns weak. Perhaps bishop b4 would be a move, or bishop e7, or even a4 might be a move. A5 I mean, preventing the a pawn moving forwards. I want to say bishop b4 is interesting as a move. And then perhaps I can swing the queen, over here at some point, or maybe I simply improve the position with rook c8. And I've got the rooks on open lines, open files. I'm not too sure about my bishop on b4, so I'll let white take it. Which probably isn't correct, but at least it solves the problem of what to do with the bishop. It means I don't have it anymore. And then rook c1, okay. Radical move time. King e7, keeping my rooks connected. So if they take, I'll take back. He or she is connecting the rooks as well. Queen attacking the pawn is a somewhat useful move. Maybe rook g6 is playable, or maybe I let the queen run all the way over there. I want to say I'll defend the pawn. My bishop's still guarding the rook, so I don't yet have a terrible position. It's not ideal though. Rook takes, okay, bishop takes, not much to talk about there. Alright, well, I kind of want to move the bishop anyway, so I may as well put it back here. And potentially I can run my king over to like g8, which will then give it a safe place to hide. Not totally sure white can smash their way through yet. Fortunately, my knight is holding the bishop hostage over here, so it can't escape. Yeah, and white's just making sure there's no challenge to their king. I will hide my king as well, make sure it can't get mated yet. h4, so I think the idea is to play h5, and then make my rook move and then take this pawn with the queen. Therefore, I could play h5 myself. Could be interesting. The pawn is a bit weaker here on h5 because their bishop can now go after it if they move the knight. But I'm not entirely sure it's... Yeah, exactly, like this. I'm not totally sure, though, if... how much they're getting for it. I mean, perhaps it's okay. Maybe I just let it go. Or perhaps I play h6, but then the bishop takes anyway. Yeah, my queenside play has not been very successful, and white's kingside play is starting to become very successful. I need to get the pieces more active, but the trouble is my bishop's a bit rubbish, and none of my other pieces are really able to do much. King g7 would trap my own rook. Bishop takes pawn, and once the bishop's taken, it would then take my rook. h6 could be played, and then the knight has to move. So maybe I do this. Knight h3, I would guess, is the right move, and then knight to f4, and the knight's easily going to take this pawn, if not the bishop. But I'm wondering if I can sort of swindle a win somehow. Alright, I'm going to try rook g7. I have an idea behind this move. This just makes sure that knight f4 doesn't come with an attack as well. And then I have a a move after bishop takes pawn, let's say. So this is the move I'm expecting, bishop takes pawn. But no, rook c5, which is exactly preventing what the move I wanted to do. Very annoying. Knight c6 is what I want, but then rook b5, and I get a bit stuck. However, there's a silver lining here. Knight c6 does attack the pawn. Now rook b5 is what I expect to be played, but then I can grab this pawn. So I have chances. White's rooks become very active. That's the only downside. Oh, they're defending. Okay. I wonder if I can play my ridiculous move. Let's go for it. Knight takes pawn. The idea is if the pawn takes back, I take the queen, the rook with the queen. And if it's not taken, maybe I can play sort of knight g4 or something and block this pawn and this pawn being taken. No, queen over here has been done. Queen takes pawn. Perhaps I can trade. Let's go for it. Trade off those pieces. And then maybe just a simple move. Knight c6. Again, I'm going for the central pawn. And yeah, okay, king e7. Now my king on e7 is surprisingly good. The only problem is that my knight is essentially the only piece that's working right now. I'm going to have to be improving the rest of my pieces. But the hope is once the pawn falls, as I think it has to do now, then perhaps these central pawns can come up and be more use to me. Alright, rook g6, so I don't lose the rook. And then, you know, if I need to hold the pawn, I easily can play bishop c6. And it's now, it could be a race. You know, my pawn's on E and D against the pawns on A and B. Bishop c6 looks correct. I guess b4 is a move. But I suppose I can go b5 if I need to. Yeah, not ideal, but okay, I'll live with it. Yeah, b5. So this will prevent both the pawns running up, but the trouble is the a pawn runs up. Now I probably need to be pushing pawns or doing something like that. Or moving my king round. That's the other option. King comes round and it actually is of use to me. Bishop d7, a6, king moves over here, a7, king moves c7, b8 queen. So I need to be very, very careful. Perhaps maybe they are getting there in time. I thought I'd have enough moves to sort of catch them, but maybe I don't. Oh, strange. Okay. Okay, well maybe bishop d7, knight c6 is the right way to play it. My knight comes over and it's holding this. And if I lose my knight for maybe a pawn or two, perhaps I can draw in some of these positions. If I can get, say, lose the knight for 2 pawns. So, for example, yeah, a7 is just a blunder because I take it. Well, that means white will have to arrange their rook somewhere. Then I have a couple of sort of swindling type of moves that will save me. So rook b7 is the move I'm expecting to be played. No, rook takes b5. Oh, yeah, maybe this also works. Alright, well, rook g8's the plan, so I swing over to get the pawn. Okay, and then b5 will be played, I expect. Perhaps I can move the king round. Alright, well, rook a8 just to stop the pawns being too useful. And then maybe I can play knight b4. I don't know, let's try it, knight b4. And I've sort of stopped the pawns a little bit in their tracks. I've got my king as well, it can be useful. Knight f6 could be a useful move for white. So that would indicate that I need to move the king. I don't really want to move it backwards, so d6 to me looks a little better than Anywhere else? All right, let's see what happens. Yeah, a7 is annoying. And I can sacrifice, I guess. It's not ideal though. E5 maybe, but perhaps not. D4 is a move. Try this. They can't play rook b8 because I take the pawn. So that's my trump. But knight f6 is the move I was scared of. All right. Well, okay. Oh, I've just blundered. Oh dear. Not playing very well today. Just completely blundering. I thought I had a move, or maybe I still have it. I thought I'd calculated something, but perhaps maybe I just haven't done it, and I played really badly. I thought I had this move at the end, and I win back one of the pieces because of king to e5. But the thing is, I've lost too many pawns. I miscounted them somehow. And 3 pawns against 3 pawns doesn't really look enough for me to hold. My guess would be something like rook. Yeah, rook d7 exactly. King takes. Rook and bishop should be a win for white, to be honest. I'll play it on though, see if I get something good. Oh, of course, bishop h5. Yeah, I'm just playing really badly today, unfortunately. Then king e6. I guess we'll be able to see how a good player actually manages to convert to a win. And I will kamikaze the pawns, throw them up the board. Hopefully I can get my opponent to pre-move or do something silly. And why not put all my pieces on light squares so their bishop can do lots of forks and such. For example, rook e8 is a good move. Yeah, and then rook takes pawn looks very, very good. King takes, and then bishop g6, and then they would fork, pair skewer, I mean, these two, and they're going for bishop g6 if I push the pawn, which I'm not really going to do because that would be an absolutely terrible move. Again, rook e8 wins. They've probably seen it this time, but I'll repeat anyway just in case. If they do the same thing one more time, it's a draw. Oh, they've gone g4 check. Yes, that would also qualify as being good. Rook f8. Okay, they're repeating the position a lot, but I suppose everything wins in this scenario. They don't really have to play the most accurate moves. Alright, time for me to try desperately pushing the pawn. Again, I am not confident in any manner that this will work. But, of course, some problems may be throwing a few checks, hope for the best. Bishop g4, okay, starting to push my king and pawn up the board. Exactly, yes, good move. Alright, well, I guess push it further, hope for the best again. Oh, okay, well, yeah, that also works. Yeah, that also wins, doesn't it? Just as good. Maybe throw in a check. Make the game last one move longer. And then I suspect I can resign in the next move. And the Grandmaster technique here is simply to take the rook, exactly as they've done. So this eliminates any chance of me holding the draw by some kind of clever checkmate. And the rest of it will be easy. So I'm going to resign once I win King of the Hill. Oh, you got the king in the centre. So maybe I win. But apparently not, so I will resign here. Alright, and I can do maybe one more game. See if I can actually win a game for once. Normally I do well. The last couple of days, though, I've just been playing really, really badly. Blundering all over the place in Blitz games. Alright, well, we've got a Caro-Kann, so at least it's not a French for the 3rd time. Mainline Caro-Kann with this move order being played. I never quite know what to do against this, to be honest. I think Maybe I should learn a bit more theory after knight f6. But knight g2, knight g1 to e2 will confuse them a little. Bishop f4, getting the pieces out. And single-mindedly, black is shoving the h-pawn up the board. Maybe I can simply tuck my bishop away in the future with bishop h2. Also prevent the pawn shoving up the board too much. Develop my pieces, and I think I'm going to castle queenside. Probably black will do the same thing. And I could castle kingside. It's an option. It's not really one that I like, though. And c4 could be played. It's a pawn move, but it does gain a bit of space. To me, knight c3 just looks like a more natural way of playing. Oh, knight c3, I mean. Knight c3, then bishop c4, potentially in castles. Or bishop d3, trading off the bishops. You could argue as well bishop e2 and then to f3 might be a way to play, so that you are sort of lined up with the corner on a8, so that if black castles on in that direction, there could be some kind of checkmating tactics. But maybe I simply play I just play simple. Yeah, they're trading off bishops. Right, time to go queenside. Taking is perfectly okay for white, I think. Queen e7 might be good for black. Although if they're not careful, I might have d5. I mean, d5 does look interesting in these positions. Let's see, so d5, c takes is the only move that can be played because their bishop's still being attacked. Knight takes d5, but then maybe rook c8, and I don't yet see advantages for me. King b1 might be a move, simply to get the king more safe, closer to the corner of the board. But my bishop also doesn't really have a good place to be right now. So I think I have two options. One is to play bishop d3 at some stage. Bishop c4 attempting to sacrifice everything, but maybe that's a bit overly optimistic. I'm going to try a different move though. I'm going to try this. The idea is that if black takes en passant, which they are, I'd say there's about a 20% chance or higher, maybe an 80% chance they'll take it, they have. Then I've got this passer. The h-pawn could maybe charge up the board in the future, either in the ending or maybe even the middle game, a bit like the French Minerva. Okay, knight b6. Black is attempting to control the d5 square. So now is the critical moment. Do I play d5? And if I play d5, c takes d5, I might have to check. E takes d5 can't be done. Alright, let's give this a go. d5. The added bonus that I didn't have before was that I'm lined up with the queen. So the check with the bishop does look interesting. Let's try this out, sacking a pawn. And then king f8 is the move I was expecting to be played. Perhaps I don't have anything, but it does look a little bit awkward after g4. What I'm thinking is that the bishop has to go back to exactly g6 as advertised. Now I might have rook h to say e1, but first I want to play h4 and then h5, gaining even more squares, more time on the bishop. If worst case scenario, I have queen b4 check if I need to gain time, gain a tempo. Black's king is weaker than my own. Okay, a6, gaining tempo on the bishop. I could play h5, pawn takes, I take. The rook's on prise. Ooh, looks interesting, but I think with h5, bishop takes pawn, king takes, pawn takes. I'm not sure. It feels a bit rough playing that way. I do want to gain time on their bishop though, so I think bishop e2 might be correct. Not playing bishop d3. And then I can play h5 next turn. And if black's not overly cautious. For example, okay, they haven't played it, but for example, Queen d7 would have been a huge blunder because of check and then winning the knight. Alright, so h5 definitely looks like a move here. I don't see how black sacrifices the exchange on c3 yet. It doesn't look right. So now I've got as far as I can with the h-pawn. So I think it might be time for me to play this. I still need to watch out for black's counterplay. Yeah, king there looks like a move. Knight to e4 is potentially playable. Knight takes pawn is maybe an option. h6 is possible as well. So the king moves away, I take the pawn, and I'm maybe a bit better. g5 though looks very nice. So I need to analyse this. g5, so if they take, I get this pawn and mate them. So g5, then f5, queen e5, f6. I don't know, it just looks really good. And it's allowing me to push more pawns. So I might even have the move g6 coming up, where black's bishop will be completely entombed on h7. This could lead to some very nasty mates. I am, of course, putting my own king's life in danger by not defending anything, really. Rook takes c3 looks very aggressive. But no, f5 has been played as expected. Now check, and the king can't go to f8 because the rook will drop. So it must go to g8. Now is the moment for g6. Trying to blast my way through. It looks very scary for black, I have to admit. Maybe it doesn't work if you had a computer. Right, pawn takes g6 looks correct. It does help their bishop and their rook. That's the only downside for me. So here I have to choose between this move or this move. But if I play rook g1, queen e8 might just hold everything. Queen takes pawn. These two pawns are dropping potentially. Bishop's attacked. King goes to g7, which I thought would be played. Now maybe rook g1 is a playable move, going for the bishop, pinning it. Black, yes, plays rook h6, and now can I play bishop h5 is the move I'm thinking of. Or even knight takes pawn might be playable, but I don't want to move my knight out of the way, allowing the rook a clear line to my king. So bishop h5, that would mean if rook takes, I take with the queen. If black defends with, say, the queen, I guess I could trade. That's a bit dull, though, to trade. I could take the bishop, and then rook takes. I don't know, maybe they're okay in that line, but they would have to be finding accurate moves, which are not always easy to see. And I can also win a pawn if I need to. So queen e8, bishop takes bishop, queen takes queen, bishop here. Okay, and they've actually played rook c6, which might be the best move on the board. Very nice. Okay, well, queen e5 check, possibly? Then how will black defend this? Queen f6 might be the move. Yeah, this does somehow seem to be holding it for black. What do I have here? I must have a move. I don't see one though, and I've got 40 seconds. So, alright, I'll take this. I assume rook takes will be played. I can go into an ending where I might be just a tiny bit better. Yeah. Yeah, alright. Well, bishop f3 just to make sure this pawn is lost. I think I must have had a win somewhere, but I couldn't see it. Knight takes pawn is almost certainly going to be my move, but let's see how black continues. f4 could be useful, I suppose. Yes, with that exact idea. Maybe rook d2. Then I'm ready to capture. The only downside, actually, d4 is a move, isn't it? Because if I take the rook, then they play they played pawn takes bishop and then pawn takes knight, then take my bishop. No, this is being played first. Alright, knight e2, try to come to f4 potentially. I'm down to 30 seconds, so my moves are going to be highly inaccurate from here on out if they haven't been already. Alright, we'll improve my king, I suppose. Perhaps that's the way to do it. The bishop is dropping, so I'll have to defend it, take with the knight. And rook and bishop work really well together, so it might be yet another loss for me. I'm certain I was winning there. I just couldn't find how to do it with this little time. So my streak of really bad play continues. Well, I might drop below 2200 at this rate. I was about 2290 about a day or two ago. I've dropped so many points. Right, king d4. I know I'm dropping c2, but I have to try getting counterplay in some manner. Rook g4, so I win the pawn here. That was the key pawn causing me problems. If black loses the f pawn, I think I can maybe draw it. And they are resolutely not losing the pawn. I still want to win it, so I'm going to be coming over to g4. I guess this is decision time. Black can try winning the game with something, or they can attempt to get the draw. And as I'm down to 45 seconds, I suspect I'll have to take it. Yeah, okay, so they're going to try winning. Okay, rook takes f4. Knight needs to become active. So, don't know where to go. I guess I'll go here, attack the bishop. There's no way they're going to let me take it, but they will have to do something here. Then maybe my king can become more useful to the cause. Though it's very good already, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, maybe perhaps knight e5 was a stronger move, though. Yeah, knight e5 could have been better with the idea of rook f7. No, they're doing this. Okay, I'll take it. Then throw in a check, just to be certain. Okay, I've got a draw here. This is definitely drawn if I can manage to play okay, and they're offering a draw, I'll accept it. Alright, well, just before we finish, let's see how winning I was on the computer analysis. It's probably going to say about minus... Oh, no, not minus, plus about 20, and then it could have been up to like -5 near the end. But I guess my technique is somewhat good enough to hold. But yeah, that felt like a win that was thrown away at the end. And let's see, what did I do? What did I play that was good and bad? Yeah, it says that I was plus +7, I think. Is that right? +7? That is really bad. I should definitely be winning these games. Right, so up until now it was all not that great for either side. f5, yeah, it looked like a huge mistake. Queen e5, slight inaccuracy, but I'm not sure how much that will matter. Then yeah, f takes terrible. Oh, queen takes e6 first. Yeah, that looked better, because I don't let the rook on h8 and the bishop on h7 move. And then I can play things like rook to g1. So that could have been the key moment. Then we get to this point where I've been making kind of second best or third best moves. For example, it says bishop takes g6 is +5. My next move is only +2. So was it rook g1? Oh, knight takes d5. Oh, okay. No, there isn't a +5. Yeah, rook to g1 is apparently a tiny bit better, but I was worried about queen e8. So my move actually is one of the best, but the computer didn't spend long enough on it to work out it wasn't as good as it thought. Rook g1, rook h6, completely winning for me, and I just totally blunder. Knight takes d5 was better, and I did think about it, but for some reason I thought that maybe this rook could come down later in the game, but I guess it can't. And if they take with the knight, takes, and I was worried about this sort of thing, and of course what I missed was, because their knight's not on b6 anymore, I can simply fork the queen and king and win all the pieces. So that was not a great game from me, to be honest. And let's see, how winning was it for black? I'm guessing it's about -5 at the best for black, because I definitely messed up around here. Maybe not then. Okay, -2, which should still be convincingly ahead at this stage. But bishop takes c2 is apparently a mistake. I mean, in the game, I was really hoping for the cheapo, like rook d7 or something, or rook c6. And then I can play rook takes bishop, king takes, knight to e5, and simply grab the free rook. But my position was so kind of messed up that even now, it's still not very easy to win this. If I find the right moves, I should win. For example, giving up my knight here, then getting the odd couple of pawns for it, then marching over with my king and eating the pawns on A and B. However, there's still chances I could lose. Yeah, -1, and then black made the mistake, bishop e4. I don't know what the best move is, apart from king f5, which would have repeated. And yeah, this is an easy draw, where all I would have to do would be to just simply slide the rook sideways the whole time. Just keep going to, say, h4 and g4 or something. Black's king can never get any further than the 5th rank. My king is protecting the pawns. I have no weaknesses at this point, so that's why it's an easy draw. Anyway, hopefully you found this somewhat entertaining, and I'll be back soon, I suppose.